Anna, it is so good to have you joining me on the podcast today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's super exciting.
Oh, it is such a pleasure. I have been really looking forward to having you on the podcast because you have a really special story, and I've been working with you. It's not quite a year now. I think it's coming up for a year, but a
Yeah.
couple of months you've been in the Jory Business Academy, and you've gone through some big life milestones at the same time, super exciting milestones. But milestones that definitely have an impact on how you're able to show up in business. And so I'm really excited to have you here, to have you sharing your story, the lessons that you've learned, celebrate some wins, um, and all of that. But before we dive into any of that, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and share a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Yes, of course. Yeah, so my name's Anna. I'm based in Vancouver, Canada, and I actually grew up on a small island in Sweden. Um, I trying to like think how far back I should go, but
As far
I'm
back as you want.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I'm just thinking back on like the fact that I have a business now, and sometimes I feel like I need to pinch myself because I I think I've told myself for a very long time that I never knew what I wanted to do for work, that I never knew what I wanted to be. But recently I realized that that's not entirely true because I think when I was really young, I did know that I wanted to be an artist. Um, but I think unfortunately at the time there was this perception, and I'm sure there's a lot of that around still, that you can't really make any money as an artist. And I was so into crafts and painting and drawing and like all of those like creative things. But I think because I had a lot of people around me saying that, that's lovely, that that's a dream of yours and that's so inspiring and you're really talented and, you know, but just be I guess to try to level with me in a way that just be aware that if that is something that you want to do for a living, you're also going to need to make a lot of sacrifices as well in terms of lifestyle and income and that kind of thing. So I think that resulted in me, you know, kind of putting that dream aside for a really long time. And I tried to find a different path, constantly trying to find something that I could do where I would still get to, you know, feed that creative side, but it would be more of like um, a real profession that I don't know, that people expected you to do, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, and that was really hard because I think that actually took me on like a 20, like 15, 20 year journey of trying to find the right way, like what I wanted to do. Um, and I dabbled in so many things. I tried out photography and I thought about design. I like graphic design, making websites. Um, and I just couldn't find anything that really resonated. And I kept just jumping in between different stuff. And then it's funny when I like look back because I was so young still. I was like in my early 20s. Um, but I was so uncomfortable when people asked me like, what do you want to do or what do you want to become? And every time I just responded, I don't have a clue. There's nothing that I want to do. Um, I don't have any like goals or dreams or anything. It's just we'll just see where I end up. Um, so when I was in my early 20s, I felt super lost. I had a lot of anxiety because I guess I just didn't know what was happening or like where I was gonna end up. So I remember having this conversation with my dad, where he said, like, maybe you just need to take a break from everything and go away for a while. And I guess in a way he was saying that I need to go find myself, in a way, like go travel. And so I did. I went traveling, I went to Southeast Asia, and I spent the better part of 5 years over there. I got super into scuba diving, and so I was a dive master and just yeah dived for that entire time.
That's amazing.
It was really cool, and it really disconnected me from everything and just gave me a break. And then I met my partner over there, Tom, who's a dive bum as well, and decided to come with him back to Canada where he lived. So that's how I ended up in Canada, um, which is just so random. I could never dream that that was where that was going to lead to. Yeah, anyways, so I came to Canada, and then it started all over again. I started dabbling in different things, tried out like different jobs. I was doing sales for a while. I was a baker. I worked in a kitchen. And then I realized how hard it is to live away from home full time. I had both my grandmothers passed away in the first couple of years that I was here. And I chose to quit my job both times in order to go home and be with family. And then I came back, and I actually ended up getting a job um, making jewelry for someone else. So just manufacturing her designs, like very minimalist, sort of custom engraved pieces. And I finally started feeling that creative spark coming back. And I loved it so much. Unfortunately, and this is a story for another time, but I got terminated from that job really abruptly. And I was never told why. To this day, I have no idea what happened, but just on the day, basically, I was let go, and I was back to, I just in free fall. Um, it was such a horrible experience, and I didn't understand anything. But what I realize now is that that is probably the best thing that could have happened
Yeah.
to me, because yeah, that's basically how I ended up getting a little bit of time to like sit back, start doing just creative things in my free time. Um, and I decided to start my own business.
My goodness, Anna, it's always so fascinating to me when I do these episodes with clients because I know you guys so well, but there's still so many parts of your stories I haven't heard. And just hearing your story that you just shared, like so many people, I think, go through that like trying to find themselves, what lights me up? What am I going to do? You find jobs that, work on some level, and then you recognize like that lack of flexibility when you need to be with your family. A lot of companies just don't give you that ability to be flexible, to go see family when things are happening that you need to be there for. And then hearing you lose that job on the day unexpectedly with absolutely no reasoning, it's so distressing. And it sounds like something that potentially, like, you tell me if this sounds correct, but it put you back into rock bottom essentially. And I agree with you. I will say, for everyone listening to this, I've hit rock bottom multiple times actually. And every time it has been the best thing for me. Every single successful jewelry business owner and business owner that I know, the really successful ones, got there because they started at rock bottom. And the benefit of being at rock bottom is you have nothing to lose, so you give it your all. When you are a little bit too comfy, it's very hard to do that, because you have some things to lose. You have your reputation to lose. You have this. But when you're like at that point where it's like, okay, well, it's now or never. I have no really other options that I want to do. Like, let's just go all in and do it. It makes a world of difference. So talk to us a little bit about, the challenges that you faced when you decided, you know what, I'm going all in, I'm going to be the designer, I'm going to make these. Like, what challenges did you face in doing that? Because it's so exciting, it's so fun, and there's also so many challenges when it comes to growing a business.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think it took a while before I sort of gained the courage to tell people around me that this is what I was doing. It felt so strange to like put those words in my mouth to like I'm starting a business and I'm making jewelry.
Mm.
Because I think it just brought me back to when I was a kid and I said I wanted to be an artist, and just that nagging in the back of my head saying like you can't make any money doing this, like this is a pipe dream, it just doesn't work. um but it actually only like I just went all in like you said, because I didn't have anything to lose. I I stumbled, how it started was I stumbled upon silver clay online and I'd never heard of it before. And it just blew my mind. And I ordered home like a kit and I started making jewelry with it. And I think even before I opened the first pack, I knew that this could potentially turn into something that I could do for a living. Um, so that was really scary. But yeah, it only actually, once I started putting stuff out there, it actually only took a couple of weeks before I got my first order from like a complete stranger online. And
Amazing.
that was super cool and encouraging, and I couldn't believe it at the time. I was like, I don't even know how to ship this to someone like in the States or whatever they were based. Yeah, it was, so there's so many things like thinking back to like where I was then and how little I knew and just figuring it out along the way. Like I got the sale and then I was like, okay, I guess I just need to go to the post office and talk to someone and ask them like how do I get this to them in,
How do
and
I
like what
ship
do I
it?
need to do? Yeah, this is
I
like the
love it.
most simple thing that felt so hard. And now it's like an everyday task that you do just all the time. So there's so many, like it started with those little things that felt like really big, and then obviously as the business grows, more and more challenges that you need to face every day. But I do feel like it's kind of come full circle in a way, because so many of the things that I dabbled in throughout trying to find what I wanted to do is now incorporated into running the business, like the photography, the website building, graphic design, like all of those things. So I'm in a way so grateful that I did try out all of those things, because I have a little bit of knowledge in all of those different areas that I can now use
Oh,
towards
I
doing
love
this.
that. I love that. That's so true. We often, sometimes people think like, oh my gosh, I wasted 15, 20 years to actually start doing what I wanted to do. But in those 15, 20 years, you're learning so many transferable skills. You're getting so much insight, so much knowledge. And there's nothing quite like having really experienced other roles so that when you finally build your business or you're in a different role that lights you up, you have other things to compare it to. And you can be like, oh, okay, there's maybe some things I don't love about running a business, but the positives far outweigh the negatives compared to all these other roles I've been in. And I'm able to now really appreciate it. So one thing I really want to chat to you about, because I've been so impressed at how you've navigated this. So you recently had a little boy, a baby boy. He's adorable. He joined some of our group coaching calls. And I remember it was close to a year ago, I think, when you joined the JBA. And I remember at that time you I don't know if you knew you were expecting or it was just a few months later, but it was suddenly like, okay, wait, now we need to make some changes and we need to really like get as much implemented essentially before your little one arrives, and maybe even restructure the business because your priorities are going to shift massively when he does arrive, because obviously you want to spend as much time with him as possible and still be making money in your business. And I would love for you to, number one, just share that incredible milestone you celebrated when you were 40 weeks pregnant, because that was really incredible. And then share a little bit about, any fears that came up when it came to actually changing your strategy. Because I know we did change some of the approaches when it came to launches and the number of units per design. And I think at one stage I remember you saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that you were, a little anxious if we make these changes, like sales could drop off or something else could happen.
Yeah. So, like you said, like I knew that I was pregnant when I joined JB. That's one of the reasons I did join, because it was, I guess, eye-opening for me. I was so grateful that I had my own business, because I knew that that meant I would have a lot of freedom with my time and I'd be flexible. But it was also eye-opening in a way that like I really need to um, get on track and you know, I don't know. Before I felt like I had all the time in the world to make this happen, and all of a sudden I felt like we need to ramp up, and I'm probably gonna need some help doing that. Um, and stop doing all this trial and error. It works, but it takes such a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I I think what I used to do before was I made a lot of one of a kind pieces, and I did releases throughout the year, and each collection would have like 16, 20 pieces in each one, and they were themed ones depending on the season. And I love doing that, but it was extremely draining at the same time. It took such a long time to make them, like come up with what they were gonna look like, and then putting them together, and then taking photos of everything, writing product description for each one, marketing them. Even just listing them online took a long time. And so by the end of one of those releases, they usually did really well. But the thing was, once they were out there and they were sold, I was so tired that it would take me probably 3, 4 weeks before I could, muster up enough energy to start working on the next one. And so it was all I could do was maybe 4 of those collections a year. And it just, if there was a model where I could do them more frequently, it would be more sustainable. But the way that I was doing it now, it just wasn't working. So I was given the advice from you to maybe, instead of making 20 different designs, take my favorite ones out of those and just maybe make multiples of some of them, which was so great because I had so many customers who felt disappointed every single time I released a new collection, because they had their eyes on something and they really wanted it, but like they would go onto the website 2 minutes after something was released and it was already sold. And then they knew that they had to wait like months before the next thing came
Mm-hmm.
out. So it was great for customers to be able to, for more people to be able to get the jewelry that they had fallen in love with. Um, and it also meant that I didn't have to do like work, do the same thing over and over and over again for each different design, which was um, great for me too. A good way to like manage my time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was working on this collection then, like that I wanted to release, that I wanted to then keep around for a longer period of time. Um, and it took a little bit longer than I would have liked it to, because I was pregnant and I knew that, once the baby arrives, that I'm gonna be having some downtime after that. So I want this to be out before then. I want everyone to get the opportunity to purchase something too. And so I guess it all finally came together in June, and I released it in the beginning of July. Um, and I was due at the end of July. Um, and it went amazingly well. Like people loved that collection, and yeah, I sold multiples of each piece. Um, and in the end, that month ended up being the best month that I've ever had since I started the business. And
Wow.
and that is all due to implementing a lot of the other things as well that you um, told me to do. Because it was the collection that did really well. But also, I was able to get a wholesale order, which is something that I had never thought that I was going to get into. I don't know why. I just felt like, that it's my jewelry wasn't going to work for wholesale or something. I don't know why I thought that. So I got a wholesale order, and then also the consignment stores that I got into, were doing really well too. So all of those things kind of came together, and I was suddenly starting to see like, okay, multiple streams of income, and some of them, are doing their own thing. Some of them I'm putting my own energy and effort like into like selling online. Um, and I had the best month ever. Um, it would have been great if it was a little bit earlier and not right before baby came because I was very tired.
Yeah, just a
But
few days before he arrived, but what an amazing milestone. Are you comfortable sharing the approximate amount?
yeah, so it was I did over $10,000.
Over 10,000. So that was your first like really high sales month since starting your business
Yeah.
and 40 weeks pregnant. Like what an amazing milestone, Anna. And you got there. I know you shared like, yeah, you implemented the things I shared and stuff, but the reality is you're the one who showed up and you're the one who did the work and you're the one who was consistent over several months to actually make that happen. So, like, you should be so, so proud of yourself. And it's such an amazing achievement. And I think that you're only just getting started. Like, now you've seen that evidence of, like, oh, wait, we did this 40 weeks pregnant. We can definitely increase this when you're ready to dive back in a little bit more in your business.
Yeah, I'm excited to do so. And what I've come to realize also now since the baby arrived is that the consignment stores have kind of been a bit of like my bread and butter almost to be
Mm-hmm.
have that consistent income backing me up so that that is eventually going to free up more time for me to do more like one of a kind things here and there when I have the inspiration to do them. And I'm gonna enjoy it so much more, and I think they're gonna be so much better too, which is exciting. So I'm looking forward to getting into more consignment and wholesale next year.
I'm so excited for you. Now, I know we've had a few conversations with this, and we won't dive into the exact strategy and stuff, but we are going to be changing your strategy in the new year because since you had your little one, your values and everything, like things have changed. And we had a few conversations around this. So, do you want to share how your values have changed? How, like, since having your little boy, your the way you want to build your business has changed?
Yes, so much, which was unexpected. I mean, it's the first baby, so I didn't know what was going to happen and how I was going to feel. So when I first joined, I had this picture in my head that I just need help to build this business as fast as possible, to hustle and make, as much money as possible, as soon as possible. And when the baby comes, I want help to get right back into it and start working again as much as I can and have a crazy Christmas season. Um, and turns out that was not at all what I wanted to do. Because when he arrived, I realized that what I actually needed help with was to take a step back and be able to allow myself to take it easy. And it was this one thing that you said to me on one of our coaching calls that, reminding me that that was the reason that I started my business in the first place was that I wanted to have the freedom to take it easy during that season of life, like when you felt like you had to just do other things. And so I think I guess that was sort of the big shift. It went from the only reason I have this business is to make money. I think, again, trying to prove that what I've been told my whole life is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But also like now realizing that it is the freedom that is so important. And so the strategy now would be, like we've talked about, making sure that that I have that security sort of as a base layer in the business
Yeah.
from sorry, I'm not sure if that it answers your question exactly.
It does. You did a great job. And, I remember us talking about like the guilt you were feeling around like not really showing up since your baby boy arrived. And I was like, this is exactly why you started a business. So when you're sick or you have a baby or you just want to go on holiday, you can check out of your business. Like you don't need a mean boss. You don't have a mean boss telling you what to do. Like, and so we so often so mean to ourselves in business, we forget this is exactly why I started a business. So I have the freedom to take time off, to take a few months off if I want and spend time with my little one. And yeah, I mean, I know we chatted about it. So I think there's so many things that you're going to be doing that we don't have to go into all of that now. But essentially, it's like, well, how do I grow this business in a sustainable way without sacrificing time with my son? And how do we make sure that we have multiple streams of revenue that even when I'm not showing up, we still have revenue coming in, you know, and making sure you have that safety net, like you said, of like, we're getting X amount coming in monthly. What does this look like? What are the things I need to do? Where do I need to hire a virtual assistant or a team member to help so that you don't have to always be working in the business? You can be working more on the business and like all of that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that because I think that's going to resonate with a lot of moms to be and a lot of new moms because I think that mom guilt is so, so real. And you've just done such a wonderful, um, you've just really gracefully navigated this new season of life and just embraced it. And I love seeing that. So, I would love to know what your advice would be to a new mom who's growing their jewelry business and who's maybe feeling how you were feeling at one stage.
Yeah, what I found most valuable was to again allow myself to give myself a break at one point because I found that, like you were saying, there was so much guilt in not working on the business, but I felt like that was also taking away from like that special time that I had with this new baby. I wasn't working, so I felt like that was great, and I spent lots of time with him, and my partner was home, but part of my brain was absent too because it was constantly thinking about business related things and what I should be doing all the time. And so sometimes I would find myself at the end of the day thinking like I was not fully present today. I was just like half the brain is just work, work, work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was the most important thing for me this fall was to let go of that, to just maybe do a like decide beforehand that I'm gonna be doing like half an hour of this in the morning, whether it was social media or sending out an email or something like that. But then I'm just gonna put that aside and be done with the day and just wholeheartedly spend the rest of the time with William.
Mm.
So that was the most important thing for me for the first uh, few months. And it's hard. I'm still working on it. Like it's still hard to have some downtime and even have some downtime where like William is not here, but then maybe allow myself to do something else other than work. It's not just 50-50 baby or work. Like there are other things that you need to do as well that fulfill you.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's a work in
100%.
progress.
Yeah, and I think it's always going to be a work in progress because you're always navigating different seasons of life, and we're always just having to evolve and change and develop new routines and find what works when we have more energy and then what works when we have a little less energy. So yeah, you're doing such a wonderful job, Anna. So I'd love to chat a little bit about your experience in the JBI. I know we touched on it earlier. But can you throw back close to a year ago when you were considering joining the academy? What sort of, I know you mentioned earlier that you knew you were expecting and you wanted to like ramp up the sales, but do you remember like the challenges that you were facing before you joined?
Yeah. Um, I I think just thinking back, like I just remember it was January and I was going into another year. I sat down and I was gonna write down my goals for the year. And I was going into my fifth year in business. And when I looked at my goals, I thought these are exactly the same goals as I set last year. And also when I looked at like my ways of getting there, like trying to make up my own strategy of how to reach those goals, they were also exactly the same as the year before. And I thought to myself, like, it didn't work last year. And if I'm not making any changes, why would it work this year? But I also didn't know what changes to make. Um, and, and even if I did make some changes, I'm not sure that I would have had the confidence to follow through on those things, or like the belief that like this is the right way forward. And so you get really flaky after a
Mm.
while because you try all these different things, but then you're like, oh, but maybe that's not the best idea, and you don't really have anyone to turn to. Yeah, like all the trial and error is just so tiring. And so I knew that if I want to make big changes this year, I think I'm going to need some help. So
Mm.
that's when I turned to you.
I love that. So, yeah, there's nothing worse than being in the same place 1 year from today. And I've had the same recognitions at some points. And so, making a change and looking at like, well, if these were the same goals as last year, like that's really great that you recognize that and you recognize like, hey, I don't want to be in exactly the same place 1 year from today, and I'm gonna take things in my hands and actually go do something about it. But the reality is signing up for a program, especially like our one, it's not an easy thing to just go do. Was there anything that made you almost not sign up?
Um, yes. Yeah, I mean, the investment is like a big thing. It was a big thing. It was really scary for me, because I think for the longest time, I'm very careful with spending money. Um, but I think I've also come to realize the longer I've been doing this that, first of all, time is also money. And I'm spending so much time trying to save money that it's actually costing me in the long run. And I guess because nothing was happening, I knew that, I guess I looked at, how much I did by myself up to this point, and I was really proud of what I had been able to do because I wasn't making a lot. Like I was actually making money, just not enough. And I was stuck. And I just thought to myself, like, if I was able to do this all by myself, imagine what I could do if I also had help. And
Mm,
so I leveled with myself and realized that you do need to spend some money in order to make money too.
mm.
And so that was a big thing for me to just make the leap and do it.
Yeah, that's such a powerful realization. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to resonate with that because it is really hard to spend money on yourself as well. But I'm glad that you took the leap and that you're here now. So, um, what wins have you celebrated since being in the Jewelry Business Academy, big or small? that you'd like to share?
I mean, a big win was, the breaking my own like sales record in the summer. That was pretty crazy. Getting my first wholesale order this year too, which just like was eye-opening to me. That is something that I could actually, you know, build on and keep doing more. Um, Having my baby
Mm-hmm.
and learning to allow myself to not work all the time and take a step back and trusting that my business is still going to be there when I'm ready to return. I've got like the foundations in place so that I can take it easy for now. And it's not the end of the world if I wait for a few months and then come back and keep building later.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like I've grown a lot this year. And yeah, just I just realized a lot of new things. And I'm also seeing the potential of my
Mm-hmm.
business, which is a huge win. I'm seeing so many new paths like forward and things that I could be doing. So it's really exciting.
Amazing. I love that so much, Anna. And so, in the JBA, we obviously have so many different elements. We have the online training, we have our Facebook community, we have our group coaching calls. What would you say has been like one of your favorite parts of being in the Jory Business Academy?
The group calls, for sure. The Facebook group is great as well, and there's so like all the members of the academy, like everyone is so amazing and supportive. It's incredible. Um, but the group calls are amazing. And that's one of the things that I was worried about when I first joined because I wasn't sure what I was getting into. Um, I wasn't sure um, how available you were going to be and how much access we would have to your support. Because I've been doing like little like mini courses here and there or boot camps and taking part in other like business online things and a lot of it is just there's pre-recorded content and they send you some PDFs, you read through everything and you feel like you learned a lot, but you never use any of that stuff in the end anyway. So much knowledge and like none of it gets implemented. And not all of
Mm,
it is applicable to your business either. It's not um it might not apply to you. It's not
mm,
like personalized. And so the fact that we have these group calls twice a week where we can ask you questions that are specific to our business and you have such an insight into like each and every one of us and what we're doing has been incredibly valuable. And
mm.
so that is something you can't put a price on that. It's been amazing.
I'm so glad to hear that, Anna, because yeah, you're not the only one. I think a lot of people, when they hear group coaching calls, they're like, oh, so like two or three people take the stage for the most of the call, and everyone else just has to sit there and listen. And we don't do it that way. We check in with everybody on every single call, and we're not just checking in, we're like deep diving into what's going on and coming up with a plan for you moving forward, and then holding you accountable to actually like keep doing it, keep showing up. And so I'm so glad to hear that you've enjoyed that. And so, what would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned since being in the academy?
Oof, I think we already touched on it actually. I think the biggest lesson is to me that time is money. So streamlining things is
Mm-hmm.
great. And that you need to spend some money in order to make money too. I've realized that because I, again, spent so much time trying to save that I was doing things that took way too long. I was making my own chains forever because I thought, it's cheaper per
Mm-hmm.
chain to do that. But I spent so much time making them, just finishing them. I was tagging. I've been making price tags for my jewelry for the consignment stores by like printing them on big sheets of paper and then taping them to each individual piece. And then in the end this year, I got like a little like laser printer that I could connect to my phone and just print tags like so fast. And I'm so annoyed because that was like a $30-40 purchase, and it's saving me hours of work.
Oh my goodness.
And it's embarrassing looking back to like see how much time I spent doing those things. But that is a massive lesson that I've learned, that like little investments here and there are gonna pay off in the long run.
Yeah, that's such a powerful lesson. Well, both of those. So thank you for sharing, Anna. And for anyone who's listening who's maybe in a similar position to where you were a year ago, but maybe they're feeling anxious when it comes to investing in themselves, would you recommend the JBA for them? And like, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would not hesitate to recommend it to anyone who is either starting or have been doing it for a few years, because it's just like so much faster, and you'll save so much time. And you know, again, I was scared of the investment at first, but when I looked at a lot of other expenses that I was having that I could also like save in on other things, it actually made up for the cost pretty quickly.
Mm.
Yeah. So it just evens out at the end of the year. If you spread it out over a year, it's not a massive cost, and it does pay off to have that extra support.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Anna, and thank you so much for being here. And I'd love to know before we wrap up if there's anything else that you want to share about the lessons you've learned in building your business, a piece of advice for people listening, if there's anything else we haven't touched on.
I don't think I can think of anything
I'm
right
putting
now
you on the
off the
hot seat.
bat. Yeah, for sure. I'm so bad at coming up with things on the spot. But yeah, no. I don't think
Okay.
so. I just wanted to say thank you to you as well, Robin, for this year. It's been amazing, and looking forward to setting new goals in the new year and see what we can do.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. I really appreciate it. And it's been so wonderful having you in the academy. I'm so excited for your business and the restructuring and everything that's happening in the new year. And yeah, we'll bring you back on in a couple of months because we want to hear about the updates. We want to see the wins you're celebrating, the challenges that you're dealing with, the lessons you're learning. But thank you again for joining me, especially with your little one, William, at home. I know this is very special time. So thank you for coming on the podcast and just sharing a little bit about your journey and the lessons you've learned in navigating motherhood and business building and all the things. And I know we're going to have listeners who are feeling super inspired by your story and they want to follow along, connect, and support you. So where can they find you and how can our listeners support you?
Yeah, so they can find me probably best on Instagram. My account is Silfr by Anna. It's Silfr, which is the Old Norse word for silver. So
Mm.
Silfr by Anna. I'm on there most days. So that's probably the best place for it.
Amazing. So we will link that and we'll link your website in the show notes as
Perfect.
well. So you guys can go and connect with Anna and let us know if you enjoyed this episode. Let us know your favorite takeaways. And yeah, thank you again so much, Anna. This has been such a fun convo.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.